The South China Sea has gained significant attention in recent times due to the territorial disputes involving several countries, with China at the forefront. But why? I mean, what the South China Sea has is that China is so eager to get these territories so bad and is willing to go to war for that. Well, as you can see, China is obviously showing hostile behavior towards some Asian countries, like the Philippines. And it's too obvious that no matter what happens, China will never surrender its claim. Anyway, before we dive into that topic, let's talk about first, who really owns the South China Sea? Or to be exact, to which countries do these islands in the South China Sea belong to?
Tensions flaring once again in the South China Sea after
The Philippines has accused China of dangerous behavior in the
concluded ASEAN summit in Jakarta. President Ferdinand Marcos.
The South China Sea islands consist of over 250 islands, atolls, cays, shoals, reefs, and seamounts in the South China Sea. And these islands are owned by different countries that surround this sea, meaning every island in the South China Sea already has its own respective ownership, and China owned the majority of it. But the problem is that China doesn't only want to claim the majority, they want everything. But why? Well, the short answer is China wants control. You see, China wants to have a strong naval force across two oceans, the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And to do that, they needed to have full control over the South China Sea, because this sea is the major trade route for global trade, and whichever country controls, it will become so powerful, not only in the economy, but also in the military. But then again, China is not the only one claiming territories in this sea. Vietnam, Brunei, Malaysia, Taiwan, Indonesia, and the Philippines are all fighting for some portion of it. And in the recent events in the South China Sea, we can see that the Philippines and China are having some hostile relationships with each other. The Philippines claims the northeastern section of the Spratly Islands as the Kalayaan Island Group, in addition to Scarborough Shoal, which it calls the Bajo de Masinloc. Their claims are based on historical and legal. I said historical because in 1956, the Philippine government started their explorations in the South China Sea, where they found these islands and discovered them as No Man's Island, meaning Filipinos were the first to occupy several islands in Spratly, which they named the Kalayaan Island Group. That was for a historical claim. When it comes to a legal claim, well, according to UNCLOS, or the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, those islands that the Philippines and China are fighting for are within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ. Under the provisions of UNCLOS, EEZ can be declared up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline, and both groups of islands I mentioned are 400 nautical miles closer to the Philippines than China. It means legally the Philippines has more right to claim these islands. Same with other countries. Their claims are based on UNCLOS. But don't get me wrong, China's claims for most of their islands in the South China Sea are actually true. In fact, this sea was named the South China Sea because the majority of the islands here belong to them. But then again, not all. The People's Republic of China bases its claim to the Spratly and Paracel Islands on historical naval expeditions dating back to the 15th century. And in 1947, the Kuomintang, then the party in control of China, drew a line around the aforementioned islands, calling it the 9-line map. But wait, what is the 9-line? Well, for you to understand quickly, this is the line that you can see on China's map, where there are 9 lines that have been drawn circling most of the South China Sea. Actually, it is not a circle. It is U-shaped, like a tongue. And based on China's claim, any islands that are within their 9-lines are their territories. But the problem is that their 9-lines are against the UNCLOS EEZ rules. And if we look at the map, those 9-lines are already within the exclusive economic zone of other countries. Like in the case of the Philippines, those islands they are claiming are within their EEZ, but also within the 9-line of China. And here's the twist. China is fully aware of UNCLOS rules since the Republic of China ratified and became a member of this convention in 1996. It means they are fully aware of what EEZ means because they signed for it and agreed to it. But why didn't abide to it? Why are they forcing their way to get those islands we mentioned?
Can you please just tell me why?
Well, it will bring us again to what they called their 9-dash line. In China's perspective, they are the rightful owner of all the islands in the South China Sea because they have been using this route for more than 2,000 years as their global trade route. But the problem is, China was not the only one using this sea for many years. Malaysia, Brunei, Vietnam, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Taiwan have also been living in this sea for 2,000 years as well. But the difference is that these countries never tried to make a 9-dash line into their maps like China did. Anyway, let's get back to the main question of this video. Why does China badly want to occupy the South China Sea? I mentioned that they wanted to control this sea because of their global trade. You see, the South China Sea plays a critical role in global trade. It is a crucial shipping route that connects the Pacific Ocean to several major ports in East Asia, including Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, and others. It facilitates the movement of goods between Europe, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Approximately 1/3 of global maritime trade, including oil and other resources, passes through this region. So imagine if China fully controlled this sea. They will become even more powerful and richer. And the US is aware of that, even though the USA actually has valid reasons to support the Philippines and protect them from China. Because, the US said that they honor the law, and what the law says is that the Philippines have the right to those islands. But even then, the US actually doesn't want China to fully occupy the South China Sea because it will give China a huge advantage when it comes to the economy and also to their naval forces. And of course, the US doesn't want that to happen. After all, China is one of the biggest rivals of America.
Are they afraid?
Well, at least America is protecting small countries from the bullying of China. Apart from having access to global trade, the South China Sea is believed to have an abundant oil and gas reserve. And of course, whoever gets these resources will have significant implications for their own economies, especially their energy markets and global energy security. And sure, this sea still has rich fishing grounds. And did you know that 10% of the global fish catch is coming from the South China Sea? That's why making it your own territory will also give you an abundant seafood supply. I already mentioned it, but I just wanted to emphasize that having full control over this sea will give you powerful military access and advantages. The control of this sea can enable a nation to project power and influence in the region. You see, South China Sea has access to the Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean. Imagine if you put military bases on every island along this route. You will have formidable naval forces, and all countries that want to have healthy global economic relationships will be your allies because, if they want to ship products to other countries, they better befriend whoever owns the South China Sea. And China's goal is to become the owner of the entire South China Sea to gain a significant advantage when it comes to the military. So again, it is not surprising that China badly wants the South China Sea. And knowing all the benefits that this sea can offer, China will never stop seizing those islands. Well, at least from what I can see, China doesn't have a plan to stop. But hopefully, for world peace, I hope China will let other countries get their rights to some portion of the South China Sea, because believe me, unresolved territory conflicts like this will only end to one thing, and it is war. And history has already proved that many times.